Hello everyone, my name is Ajmerdin and this is CA Intermediate Audit and Assurance May 2019 question paper with us, and today in this video we are going to discuss about the suggested answers of the questions which were asked in this question paper about part 2. First of all, first A was about where the firm is appointed as an auditor of entity. The audit report is signed only in the name of audit firm, so this statement is incorrect. It should be signed in the personal name of the auditor and in the name of audit firm together. Second was satisfactory control environment is not an absolute deterrent to fraud. It is correct. And C is about CAG will appoint auditor within 180 days. That is correct, but the office of the auditor shall hold till the conclusion of AGM and not the next financial year. So C is incorrect in this scenario. D is about joint auditor is always bound to the views of majority. No, of course not. He can express his opinion in a separate report in case of disagreement. E is about auditor of a nationalized bank is to be appointed at AGM. This statement is also incorrect because the auditor of a banking company is appointed at AGM, but however, the auditor of nationalized bank is to be appointed by bank concerned acting through board of directors. F is about the accounts of every LLP shall be audited in accordance with Rule 24. Absolutely, this is correct. And G is about positive confirmation request is a request where confirming party respond only in case of disagreement. No, this is not correct. It is the correct statement should be a request that confirming party will respond directly to the auditor indicating whether the confirming amount is in agreement or is in disagreement. In both the cases they need to reply. In H, it is rule number 3 of companies cost audit cost records and rules 2014 provide that class of companies engaged in the production of goods and providing services shall having overall turnover of 25 crores. Of course, this is not a correct statement. It is to be 35 crores or more in the immediately preceding financial year. So this statement is again incorrect. Coming to the second question, A part, first part, you need to justify that sampling risk can lead to the erroneous conclusion. Here you need to write down two type of erroneous conclusion. In case of test of controls, that controls are more effective. Auditor can say that controls are more effective than they actually are, or the material misstatement does not exist. In fact, it does. And second thing, in case of that auditor can conclude that the controls are less effective than they actually are, or in case of test of details that the material misstatement exists when in fact it doesn't. In B case, list out the points should be kept in mind for the purpose of constructing audit program. So first of all, auditor should kept in mind that there should be the audit program should stay within the scope and the limitation of the assignment. They need to consider all the possibilities of error. They need to coordinate the procedures applied to a related item of the audit, and they need to determine the evidence reasonably available and identify the best evidence for deriving the necessary satisfaction. And only those steps and procedure which are useful in accomplishing and the verification process for a specific situation should be there in the audit program. Talking about second C was about which information he should obtain before accepting an engagement. So he need to get the information about the integrity of the principal owners and the key management. He need to check whether the engagement team is they are competent enough to to perform the audit engagement, and then he need to verify that whether the firm and the engagement team can comply with the ethical requirement and in the significant matters that have arisen during the current and the previous year of previous audit engagements, if any. Okay, talking about second D is how the process of the establishing the overall audit strategy assess the auditor in marshalling his human resource. Of course, when they need to deploy specific teams to the specific areas of that experience, and for example he need to determine the amount of resources which should be allocated, for example in case of verification of inventory or the material location. So he need to think about what areas what engagement team have the experience, what persons who having the experience of that particular situations, and when these resources are deployed in such as whether the interim audit stage or the cutoff audit dates, they need to deploy the audit teams accordingly, and the availability of the time with the client as well. How such resources are managed, directed and supervised, such as whether the team briefing, describing about the meetings and the expected things which should be done on-site and off-site of the assignment, and whether to complete the engagement quality control reviews need to be write down in this answer. Third A is about several litigation is pending against the company, so you need to suggest the audit procedure in a given case. So the auditor shall design and perform the audit procedures in accordance in order to identify litigation and claims involving the entity which may give rise to a risk of material misstatement, and should include inquiry of things with management and wherever applicable with TCWG, and including in-house legal counselors or the in-house legal team. They need to review minutes of meeting with those charged with governance in corresponding with any external litigation counsels or any discussions within them. And they need to review, auditor need to review legal expense account as well. If the auditor assesses the risk of material misstatement, then there is a high probability that the account of legal expenses must have been higher, and in addition to the procedure. So whatever the expenses have booked in the legal expense account, auditor should check them as well. Talking about third B, which are the specific risk areas to the company's internal control having IT environment. So IT is also possesses specific risk to the entity's internal control, and it includes, for example, reliance on the system or the program for inaccuracy processing data or processing the data inaccurately, and unauthorized access is also highly risk area, specific risk area for the data which is stored in the units, and the unauthorized changes in data or the master file can affect the financials, reporting statements and the ledgers as well. Unauthorized changes in system and programs, or failure to make necessary changes in system or program with respect to taxation or the new coming of financial reporting frameworks as well. Talking about third C is independence of mind and the independence of appearance are interlinked perspective of the independence of auditor. Definitely they are, and you need to define these two terms here. That could be well enough for this. I have given suggested answer in the link in the description box. The link is given in the description box for my blog, where the text of the suggested answer is written, so you can also refer there for anything which is not covered in this video. Third D is completion memorandum is very helpful as a part of audit documentation. Definitely completion memorandum, or we can say audit document summary, is very helpful. The auditor may consider it helpful to prepare and retain as a part of audit documentation as a summary for someone knows as a completion memorandum that describes the significant matters identified during the audit and how they were discussed. Such summary may facilitate the effective and efficient review and inspection of audit documentation, particularly for a large and complex audits. So this should be written over here for the 3 marks, briefly written. Coming to the fourth A was about the discussion the conditions necessary to recognize the intangible assets in the financial statement. Okay. And B was about while auditing purchases, which type of analytical procedure will be performed by the auditor to obtain audit evidence as to overall reasonable for purchase quality and price. In such a case, consumption analysis, stock consumption analysis, ratio analysis, where auditor should compare the creditors turnover ratio with the stock turnover ratio can be done. Auditor should review the quantitative reconciliation of closing stock with the opening stock and purchases. Of course, opening stock plus purchases minus consumption should equal to minus consumption, or we can say minus sales should be equals to closing stock of the inventory. So these all 4 steps can be taken by the auditor, and auditor should scrutinize the raw material consumption of the account, and he can compare it with the same results of the previous year as well. So this can be done for having analytical view about the overall reasonableness of purchase quantity and price. Talking about 4C, while reviewing employee benefit expenses of a company, how would, as an auditor, you will evaluate its hiring, appraisal, and retirement process. In such a case, auditor needs to obtain a clear understanding about the organization and its hiring, appraisal, and the retirement process in the manner that auditor should test the controls of the entity has set around the employee benefit payment process to determine how strong and reliable they are. The auditor should select on a random basis about the transaction and examine the related appointment letters, appraisal letters, and the attendance record with the HR policies and the employee master. He can also perform substantial audit procedure like monthly expense reasonableness, monthly expenses of employee expenses, appraisals given, and what are the tenure of the appraisals which are given. So these things can be covered over here for the 3 marks. Talking about the scrutiny, the securities premium account may only be applied by the company towards the issue of unissued share of the company to the members of the company as fully paid up bonus shares. So you need to comment on this statement. Of course, this statement is incorrect. The securities premium account can be applied by the company towards the issue of unissued shares of the company to the members of the company as fully bonus shares in writing of the primary expenses, in writing of the expenses or the commission pay or the discount which is allowed for any issue of shares or debenture of the company, or in the case of in providing the premium payable for the redemption or the redemption of preference shares or any debentures of the company, and last for the purchase of its own shares or securities under section 68 of the company. Talking about 5th A, which is on board of directors found the auditor of the company acted in a fraudulent manner and decided to remove the auditor in a board's meeting. Comment on the action of the board and describe the correct procedure for the removal of the auditor before the expiry of its term. So here in this case there are 2 scenarios which have been discussed. So you need to write down about 140 and 140 about the auditor appointed under section 139 may be removed from the office before the expiry of the term only by passing a special resolution of the company after obtaining a previous approval of the central government in this behalf. And rule number 7 of for this apply here, and the application to central government should be given in ADT 2 and it shall be accomplished with the fees, of course, and the application shall be made to the central government within 30 days of the resolution passed by the board. And then the company will, after the acceptance, company need to hold a general meeting within 60 days receipt of approval from the central government after and pass a special resolution. It is important to know that before taking any action for removal of auditor before the expiry of the term, auditors concerned should be given a reasonable opportunity of being heard. The second thing is that he is acted in a fraudulent manner as well. So in that case there is a section called 140 and subsection 5. The tribunal, either suo motu or an application made by the central government or any person concerned, if it is satisfied, the tribunal satisfied that the auditor of a company has directly or indirectly acted in a fraudulent manner, or then he can by order direct company to change the auditor as well. So that's it. You need to write down in 5th A. 5th B was about auditors have right to attend only the general meetings and which is audited at which the accounts audited by them are to be discussed. Definitely he can attend he have a right to receive notices and attend general meeting. The auditor of a company are entitled to attend any general meeting of the company, and it is not restricted to those which accounts audited by them is discussed. So he can attend any general meeting, and also to receive all the notices and other communications related to general meetings which a member are entitled to receive is also be entitled to receive by the auditor. Next is about though the legally auditor may exercise right on lien in case of companies, it is mostly impracticable for the legal and practicable constraints. Do you agree? Of course I do agree with the statement, because under section 128 also the books of accounts of the company must be kept with the registered office, and these provisions make it difficult for the auditor to have a possession over the books of documents. The company provides reasonable facility to auditor to inspect the books of the accounts by the director and other authorized person to inspect under the act. Taking an overall view of the matter, it seems that although it is legally authorized to auditor have exercise right over lien of the books of the companies, it is mostly impracticable to do so, because some cases under section 128 also restrict, and ethically it is also not allowed to an auditor to have a lien over the books as well. Next, if we talk about fixed assets, so of course this is direct question from the Caro, and paragraph number 3.1 is about the fixed asset and whether the company is maintaining proper records and showing the full particulars, including quantitative and details of the fixed asset, whether these fixed assets have been physically verified by the management at a reasonable intervals, and whether the title deeds of the immovable property are held in the name of the company, and if not, details to be. Talking about sixth question, which is first, which is you are appointed as an auditor of a bank and hold a discussion with an audit team and list out the matters which you should discuss at the planning stage of audit to gain better understanding of bank and its environment. So errors that may have likely to occur should be discussed. Errors which have been identified in the prior period, prior years must be discussed. Methods by which fraud might be done by the bank personals or other within the particular account balances or the disclosure should be discussed. Audit responses to the audit risk and specific risk areas should be considered, and they need to maintain a professional skepticism throughout the audit engagement. These are some matters which should be discussed with the engagement team. Talking about Mr. Piyush, the bank manager deploys control to aid managing key businesses and financial risks. Discuss the various requirements of an effective risk management system in the bank. So understanding the risk management process is very important. Management deploys controls and uses performances indicators to aid management key business and financial risk. An effective risk management system of bank generally requires the oversight and involvement in the control process by those charged with governance. They need to identify, measure and monitor the risk. They need to have a control activities within the bank, and bank should have appropriate controls to manage its risk, including effectiveness of segregation of duties, which is very important, and they need to monitor the activities and risk management models. Methodology used to measure the management risk is very important. Then we come to reliable information of the system, and it is developed throughout the banking softwares which have been used. Bank required to have a reliable information system that provide adequate at full information on a timely manner. It should be important to be discussed in this question. Let us talk about 6C, and 6C is about advice within the when the central government can direct special audit under section 77. So they can direct, central government have a power to direct special audit in case first that the affairs of the company is not multi-state cooperative society are not being managed in accordance with the self-help and mutual deed, and that the multi-state cooperative society is being managed in a manner likely to cause a serious injury or damage to the interest of the trade industry or the business to which it pertains. And last, that the financial position of any multi-state cooperative society is endangered is solvency. Talking about 60 is about discuss the power of C and AG in the in government audit. So of course you need to write down that the powers of the CNAG to inspect the offices of accounts under the control of union or the state government, including the offices responsible for creation of initial or subsidiary accounts. They have power to require that any accounts, books or papers or any other document which deals otherwise to the relevant to the transaction under the audit shall be sent to the specified areas by the CNAG, and they have power to put such question or any observation as he may consider, CNAG may consider necessary the person in charge or the officer and call him for the information that may be required for the preparation of accounts of the company or the report as such. So thank you very much, and suggested answer link is given in the description box for the new course, and for the old course also some of